welcome to Racing Green Live from Earthfest 2024. Today our guest host, Adrian Ma, chats with Caz Conneller from Loud Mobility about the health and environmental benefits of electric bikes, the challenges women face in cycling, and Loud Mobility's mission to get 1 million women on e-bikes.
Just before we get into this, we're going to be talking about transport and mobility. I'd love to just ask a question to the audience. How many of you here travelled here by tube? Put your hand up if you came by tube. Great. How many by bus? How many walked? How many came by car? Did anyone come by bike? Oh, fantastic. Anyone by e-bike? Wow. That's what we're hoping to change.
Exactly. And I think you've had a go on one of the e-bikes today. I recognise you on the e-trike. Yeah, they're so fun, aren't they? Yeah, brilliant.
Look at that. You can see pure joy in this man's face right there. Thank you, guys. Just want to put this into context before we go into the Q&A. By some estimates, transport is responsible for 20 to 30% of all carbon emissions around the world, which is pretty bonkers. And if just 10% of us change our transport habits from driving to cycling, we would reduce that total amount by 4%, which is absolutely bonkers. And scientists have also found that cyclists have 84% less of a carbon footprint than a car driver.
Oh, nice facts. I like it.
We're joined here by Caz. Caz is on a mission to get 1 million women on e-bikes.
Yes, exactly. So my name's Caz, and I'm Director of Community and Culture at Loud Mobility. And we are running a campaign called She's Electric. And we're here as part of Earthfest today. Our mission is to inspire and enable more women to cycle. And we're doing that through the power of electric bikes. So basically, I ran a business called Cycle Chic for 16 years, which was all about encouraging more women to cycle. And what I've noticed in the last couple of years is that a lot of our customers were either switching to electric bikes or just starting out, maybe hadn't cycled for a long time since they were a child, and were starting out and being very much enabled by an electric bike because there's many factors that just make it a bit easier. Firstly, you have the electric assist, so you don't need to pedal so hard, you don't need to get all hot and sweaty. And also, a lot of women find that electric bikes feel safer, having that extra assistance when you're stopping in traffic, when you're getting going at the lights. Having that e-assist is actually a huge safety bonus. So what I realised is that e-bikes are a real enabler to open the doors for more women. And that's very much at the heart of what the She's Electric campaign is all about. Brilliant,
brilliant. And let's talk about your personal journey to Loud Mobility. What brought you here? How did you end up working in Loud Mobility?
Yeah, sure. So I guess rewind a little bit back to my inspiration for starting Cycle Chic initially. And I lived in London. I lived in Shepherd's Bush and worked in Battersea, and my journey to work was just this kind of horrible combination of tube, bus, walk that was just a bit too long in the morning, and I really felt like there was another way for me to get to work, and I really wanted to have a go at cycling, but there were so many barriers that came up against me. I was totally petrified of cycling on the roads. I didn't drive. I didn't know how a roundabout worked. I was just like, is this even safe for me to do this? I picked up my first vintage bike from a second-hand bike shop in Elephant and Castle and managed to get myself across London, just like going on the pavements. Like it wasn't an easy route. I was determined to do it because for environmental reasons I wanted to do it, and I just wanted to be outside more and be more active. And I felt like there wasn't many women like me on bikes, so I also felt like I couldn't see any kind of... there was a lot of men, there was a lot of racers, there was a lot of people in lycra and high-vis, and I just felt as a woman at the time in my 20s, I was kind of into my clothes and looking cool. I was like, why can't I see that anywhere? And if I saw that, that would give me way more motivation. And what I also noticed at the time was there was actually a really nice relationship between fashion and cycling. And if you go back in history, there's a really strong link with women's independence in cycling, and there's a real kind of strength through that. And in other European countries, women cycle and just look awesome and look like themselves. But in the UK, it's changed a lot now. That image, that I felt like there was an image problem with cycling. So that compelled me to start Cycle Chic and put a different image out there to just invite more women in. And I'm really proud of that business, and we got a lot of women who kind of came to us and were like, oh, thank God, a helmet that actually looks nice, and I'm not going to feel like, I'm going to be able to feel confident. So that was really that's how I got into it, and then I just saw the potential, as I already kind of went into a little bit, seeing that a potential of electrification. And then, yes, more women are cycling now than they were 15 years ago, but it's still a drop in the ocean,
Well, you gave me some stats. We talked about this before. And for people who are listening to this on the podcast, maybe if you can just talk through some of these statistics that you found here.
Yeah, exactly. So only 11% of women cycle versus 24% of men. If we look on this side, it's just really staggering to see the gender gap in cycling across all age demographics. Some more alarming than others, but all alarming because there's just a gender gap in every age bracket. And through the kind of research that I did and talking to women, I identified the three main barriers. One was safety. A lot of women would like to cycle, but just do not feel safe cycling on the roads. The other was image, talked about a little bit, people not seeing it as something that is cool or something that's for them. And then faff factor, which is another really important one.
Right.
Why, we're going to choose a mode of transport that's easy for us. Yeah. And if there's a mode of transport that involves too much faffing about, like, oh, but do I need to take an extra pair of clothes? Where am I going to park the bike? Like, that element of faff factor can really put people off.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see that. I know people who are motorcyclists, and it takes them half an hour just to get out the door in the morning.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're doing specifically to help these women overcome some of those barriers?
Yeah, so through She's Electric, we're here over the whole weekend. We're working with a range of partners, and we have just got a range of different electric bikes down on Stable Street, over there somewhere. That way, thanks. And we've got a really great team just supporting women just to come and have a try. And that's really kind of a key part of the behaviour change process, I suppose, is giving people a chance to engage and try something. So perhaps get people over initial safety fears and just have that experience to try something that they may have shied away from, previously.
Perfect. And we talked a little bit about some of your success stories, and we have some of them on the screen here. Maybe you can just take us through some of these stories here.
Yeah, so this is some of the events that we did in the summer. So this is very much what we're going to roll out this year, is just more events and just working. This obviously is a really big event, which is great, but a lot of the ones we did in the summer were much smaller. And that's, again, what we want to kind of roll out, is working in communities, just being in a safe place, in a recreation ground, and just, again, giving women that chance to try. So we had a real kind of cross-section of different women coming along, women in the 50s plus bracket, who are, wanting to be more sustainable, wanting to be healthy and active and physical. And that, again, this is a real kind of target demographic for us. Teenagers and young people, for me, this is the generation that has the most kind of importance, the next generation coming through and changing transport habits and giving them the opportunity to look at alternatives, which a lot of that younger generation are already, but just showing that there's other alternatives to driving at a really young age and having a positive experience around that. And then, women with younger children. And actually today has been amazing. We've had so many families and so many people coming with young children, kind of from toddler through to about 6 or 7. It's a really good way to transport young children who can be quite slow at walking places. I have 2 children, so have experienced that. And when you're in a rush trying to get to school, it's like, get them on the bike and you can get somewhere really, really quickly, and it's a kind of fun experience. And I know we talked about Kate, didn't we? Yes. So we've also got a role model exhibition down just outside the expo, and we worked with 10 women who all have different stories as to why the electric bike is an enabler for them. And Kate Ball is one of those, and she has a disability, and she has sort of severe hip pain, and so she can't walk that far. So she has a Brompton that she has converted into an electric Brompton, and she attaches her wheelchair to the back of it. And she's just an absolute inspiration. You know, Kate. She has 4 children. She is a career woman. She works for Wheels for Wellbeing. She travels all over the country. And she's just, I think, when people see these kind of stories, it's really inspirational. So it's very much embedded into our campaign, is telling the stories of real women.
What an absolute hero. And what you said about children being ferried around in an e-bike is absolutely true. I have 2 young girls, a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And they went to my friend's electric cargo, and honestly, the joy on their face as they're being ferried around Hackney is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So
great fun.
We've literally just minutes ago had Sadiq Khan over on stage over there talking about active transport and what he's doing in London. How do you feel London fares when compared to other cities, and how does the UK compare compared to other countries with its cycling infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't hear Sadiq Khan's talk, unfortunately, because it was too full. But yeah, there's been massive cuts in active travel budgets of late, and it's so hard for all the people who are trying to do. There's so much potential, and we know we have to embrace active travel and e-mobility more to meet our net zero goals. You know, this is real stuff now, and the government have cut active travel spending, which is just restricting so many organisations, local authorities. If you look at other European countries, they're running subsidy schemes for electric bikes, which has proven to work. In France, in the US, we have nothing like that over here. Infrastructure, we have Active Travel England, which is working on developing strong, good infrastructure, but again, it doesn't compare with places like the Netherlands. So we have a long way to go, most definitely. Why
is that? Why everyone talks about the Netherlands being this beacon of haven for cyclists compared to the UK. What happened there that didn't happen here?
Well, they made a decision in the 70s, I think, to basically completely transform their infrastructure. And whenever they build a road, they build a segregated cycle route.
Right.
So we cycled from London. We got the ferry to the Hook of Holland, and we cycled to Amsterdam. Myself and my business partner, Georgia Yexley, and Jada, who runs another cycling business, Jada Heselton. We cycled on electric bikes, and it was the first time I'd cycled in the Netherlands, and just to see that infrastructure, it just slightly mind-blowing, because you don't even have to worry about, you never have to worry about coming. There's just always a cycle lane, you know. It's incredible. We don't have that here. We're probably never going to have anything quite like that here, but we do need improvements to get people over safety barriers. And I think, you know, the 20-mile-per-hour limit is a good measure. We have it in our town. If you slow the traffic down, you're all kind of traveling at the same speed, then as a cyclist, you just feel more empowered. And I think that's really key, that cyclists need to feel like we're sharing the roads. The roads are not just for cars.
Yeah.
And I feel like as we move into, there's more innovation in the light electric vehicle sector, we're going to see different vehicles based around electric cargo bikes that, you know, might be a similar size to some cars. And so it's really about getting rid of that hierarchy, or reversing the hierarchy in a way, to make sure that e-bikes and cyclists feel that they have as much right as the cars on the roads and are not feeling shunned to the side.
Yeah, and it's a real safety issue as well. I've just heard Sadiq Khan say that a driver that strikes someone at 30 miles an hour versus 20 miles an hour is 5 times more likely to kill that person.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, that's why the 20 mile per hour limit, some people kind of don't necessarily see the point of it straight away, but it's incredibly, exactly, that kind of, the way it reduces the fatality rate is extraordinary. And, you know, I think there's obviously it's quite widely spread now throughout London, and you really do feel that difference as a cyclist, that it's just not as terrifying with that when the traffic slows down to that degree.
Absolutely. And you talked about some of the barriers there. the media have made a real hoo-ha over the last few months around electric vehicles, electric bikes and electric scooters. One of the things that they talk about quite a lot is these bikes going up in flames. Is this a real problem? What can be done about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's lack of regulation with the e-bike systems and with the batteries, and there are a few cases where, unfortunately, there has been fires, but it's getting completely blown out of proportion. So a lot of people's views of electric bikes and electric vehicles are getting tarnished because they're sort of terrified that, you know, things are going to blow up, and it's a very, very small fraction of users where this is happening. But yeah, there definitely needs to be wider regulation from kind of manufacturing through to, you know, bringing through the supply chain to ensure that all of the batteries and systems are fully regulated, and that, yeah, we don't have these stories tarnishing the whole kind of industry.
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding, a lot of those accidents are caused by batteries which are a bit sketchy, have been bought on sketchy websites and retrofitted onto vehicles. Is that correct?
Yeah, most definitely. So again, that's why people should buy through reputable retailers, and there should be regulation on those kind of anything that is unsafe being imported and sold in the UK to prevent that from happening.
And where do you guys stand on e-mobility when it comes to e-scooters? Because e-scooters, in London at least, have a bit of a checkered relationship with pedestrians, I think it's fair to say. Yeah. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I am a massive fan of e-scooters, and I know it's a hugely controversial area. But, you know, the thing about yes, of course, again, you know, there is problems. There has been collisions. There has been accidents. But if we look at the positives of them, they are sustainable, they are low cost, and young people are embracing them, you know? And again, if we're looking at making some real change to transport habits, and we're ignoring the fact that this a whole generation of young people have found a sustainable mode of transport that they're not allowed to use. Well, they're still doing it. They're not allowed to, but they're still doing it. I was in France a couple of weeks ago in Amiens, and just seeing the way that the electric scooters are just part of the transport mix, like it's just working, you know? And I feel like we're really restricting that, and the problem is that then becomes there's a huge grey area. So a lot of people, there's a huge confusion around e-scooters because we have the trial schemes which are legal in certain areas. So a lot of people just don't know, and then there's an image problem because we're just hearing about the fires, we're hearing about the teenagers, the people up to no good on scooters. So people are. And we're hearing about the collisions and the accidents, but actually if we legislate this, Ireland have done it, and we have training, and we have a system where there's permit and there's training. You know, people like to feel safe, they like to do training. I don't understand why, well, maybe I do understand why the government are holding back on it, but like they need to be bolder and make bolder decisions to enable what could be a really important part of the transport mix.
Yeah, and obviously, we'd love to have more people on e-bikes, but they're quite pricey. You know, I was looking at the prices of these things, and starting from around about £1,000. That's how can we help other people overcome this?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely, our mission at Loud Mobility is to make sustainable transport accessible for as many people as possible, and so this is something we've talked about a lot with the She's Electric campaign. We don't want it just for people who have a spare couple of grand to buy an electric bike, so it's definitely currently a barrier. But we're working with a few great partners who are out on the demo track with us today. Our Bike, where it's an app subscription model where you can just hire an electric cargo bike for as long as you need it.
Amazing.
It's like, if you just want it for half an hour, it's 75p. Like, you don't get anything for less than £1.
That's
I think
amazing.
It's £3, but anyway, the pricing is they're subsidised by the local authorities, so great. And yeah, it's just a really, really affordable way to use an electric cargo bike, but also, you know, overcome any of the issues with storage of such a kind of big vehicle. We're also working with a company called Swap Feet who do a subscription offering, so you pay a monthly fee, to subscribe, getting away from that kind of ownership model of having to buy. We're also working with the Green Commute Initiative, where you can buy an electric bike through salary sacrifice and pay it off over a year or even 2 years. So we're definitely trying to explore all those ways to make it more accessible from a price point of view.
And I've looked at those prices for swap fees, and 75p for half an hour. I mean, it feels like actually if you switch to cycling, you would save money versus public transport with those kind of numbers. That looks
fantastic. I think, an outright purchase obviously is expensive, but if you look at the money saved over time, both comparing to cars and comparing to public transport, the long-term savings are most definitely there.
Great. And for those of us who haven't tried, or those who haven't tried an electric bike, how does it differ to a regular bike? What was it like when you first stepped onto an electric bike?
Yeah, so obviously I cycled regularly. I have 2 children, and I was finding with my second daughter, getting her on the bike was like really hurting my back, and then cycling up the hill, I was kind of like, okay, this isn't working anymore. And then, I tried a turn electric bike. I think a lot of people who cycle have been a little bit, e-bikes are now coming into their own, but there was in the history of a bit of a, oh, is it cheating? Oh, what's the point kind of thing? But then actually, I think when you have a need that you want to use your bike to get around and you want to carry a child, and then you feel like that, the power that it gives you, and it just, it just makes it so easy. And just going up hills, I mean, it's just almost like, it's just quite funny, because you can just go up like a really steep hill and be like, this is fine, So I think it's really important. So for me, that was kind of a bit of a revelation. And like I say, it was just hearing so many stories that were similar from other women that was kind of a big kind of like moment of like, this is really important that women are finding this mode of transport so enabling. So it's definitely something that needs to be promoted out there to more people to see the benefits.
And that promotion, your campaigns that you run at Loud Mobility, that costs money. Right. So how do you guys find funding for this? How do you find the resources to be able to do all of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of early days for us. So we're in our second year. I just joined the business about 6 months ago. And so we're really trying to work out the right model for our campaigns. So at the moment, we're working with a number of brands, and we all kind of, the super lovely thing about She's Electric so far is that we're a collective. So it's run by Loud Mobility, but we're working with a number of different brands. And so they're all obviously investing in this event. So that helps us to fund. But long term, we want to be able to take this national, and we want to be able to do it in all sorts of different places and give more women a chance. So this is something definitely that we're looking into, whether we can get grant funding, whether we can get sponsorship. So any big brands that care about sustainability and women, and also, there's a good opportunity there because we're going to reach 1 million women. So, so we're definitely looking for brands that have the same kind of ethos about enabling women to be more sustainable, to support us.
Great. So if anyone's listening or watching this out there, who feels they can help, please do get in touch.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a look at your website, and it mentioned that Loud Mobility is looking for campaign ideas.
Yeah, so,
What are you looking for?
Well, so our mission at Loud Mobility is to make sustainable journeys more joyful for more people. And I guess our kind of USP is that we want to work cross-sector. So my business partner, Georgia, who founded the business, she'd worked in sort of big tech mobility companies, and she'd also worked with Transport for London, local authorities, and she found that projects that had the most impact was when there was a really good working relationship, cross-sector, from private to charity to public, bodies. So really, this is quite integral to what we're doing at Loud, is working cross-sector and bringing a number of partners in to work on a project. So in terms of campaigns that we want to work with, we want people to come to us with what they need, and then we can design a campaign and find the right partners to make sure that campaign and that mission has impact or gets the results that they need.
Perfect, great. And you talked a little bit earlier about some of the innovations that you're seeing, some new vehicles coming onto the market which are based on cargo bikes but feel like different. Can you take us through some of the more wacky and fun ones that we might be seeing in the next few years?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I went to the International Cargo Bike Festival back in November, and for me, I'm really interested in. So a lot of people don't cycle because they feel, firstly, they don't have the balance maybe on a bike. They also don't want to be out in the open when it's snowy and rainy, which fair enough, and I totally get that one too. And also, carrying passengers or carrying, 2 or 3 passengers. So for me, that the really interesting area is the cargo bikes that kind of essentially, to some degree, you're driving like a car,
right?
Because they're big, they're stable. You can kind of, indicate and come into the main sort of lane of traffic as you would with a car. You're completely covered, and there's potential to carry passengers. So for me, it's this crossover of addressing the needs that people value from a car: comfort, security, and putting this into a vehicle that is essentially a cargo bike.
But you're still pedaling.
Yeah.
So is it a bit like the Flintstones when you're?
Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that's a good analogy. But yeah, no, it was just really eye-opening to try some of these very different types of vehicles that. I feel like there's, look, I'm not an engineer or a product designer, but just from a point of what do people need, what's useful, it feels like there's a huge amount of innovation to explore in this area. And then, crossing over to the little mini cars, I don't know if you've seen those around, like Microlinos, the Citroen Amis, where it's an electric car, but it's much smaller, it's much lighter, it has 60% less emitting than a regular car. And I think it's just that combination, and not necessarily feeling like you have to be a cyclist, or you're making sure everyone's working together in the e-mobility space. I just did a talk earlier with Jordan Brompton from My Energy and Shangreet from Izu, and we just had a really great conversation about women in e-mobility and everyone working together and not making it an us and them kind of mentality, which I think doesn't work for getting things into the mainstream if you're fighting against one another.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because on this very stage yesterday we had Julia Pelle from Formula E talking about women in motorsport, and particularly women in automotive as well. And it kind of feels like this whole world has been designed by men, and the shape of the bike and the design of the roads and everything has been shaped by men, and actually there's this huge opportunity here to redesign it or rethink this whole infrastructure through the lens of women. I think. Yeah,
most definitely.
I think that's a big opportunity for you.
It's a really big opportunity, and like I say, it was great talking to these 2 other women, and we were all so excited about the potential, And if you look at transport as a whole, in the workforce in transport, only 26% of roles are filled by women.
26.
Yeah,
26.
so it's like and that's an improvement from what it used to be. So many decisions throughout the whole of transport have been made by men. So it's now we've got this massive opportunity with e-mobility to bring more women in and just to have like a much more varied, and that comes from vehicle design, that comes from the business models, through to the messaging and the branding. So I think it's an exciting time. There's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, and another thing she was talking about was the transfer of technology from the racing track to the road. And they were talking quite a lot about range anxiety. Now, I don't own an e-bike, but is range anxiety an issue for e-bikes? Because if you cycled away to Amsterdam, you said.
Yeah.
Is there an issue with range anxiety on an e-bike?
Range anxiety.
Range anxiety.
Oh, range.
The idea of running out of power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. And again, we talked about this earlier. And yeah, we stopped off at just like various cafes and restaurants, and like all walked in with like our batteries and our bags, just plonked ourselves in a corner and plugged in. That was quite funny. But But yeah, definitely. And I think there's massive improvements in range, both across cars and electric bikes.
Yeah.
And actually, if you're just toing and froing on an electric bike, it's not that much of a problem. And, as long as you're doing those short distances. But I think also infrastructure is evolving both for electric cars and for electric bikes. I know a great company called Intelligent who are designing bike shelters, and they have solar charging in the shelters.
Amazing.
And they're working with local authorities. They're working with big walking and cycling routes in like the Peak District. So I think having that infrastructure that's also female focused. They're also looking at doing shelters and charging units that have lighting, so women feel more safe, that have seating. So I think, definitely bringing some of that kind of infrastructure in will help with that range anxiety.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you said you've been doing this for 2 years now with Loud Mobility. Over those last 2 years, what has surprised you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, so for me, I've been with Loud Mobility about 6 months, and like the pleasant surprise, with my previous business, I felt like I was kind of working on my own quite a lot, and getting into the space, working collaboratively, it's surprised me how nice that is to work with like a range of people.
Yeah.
And like today, if you come down and see us on our stall or on the test track, we've got 8 different organizations. We're all working together. And it's surprised me just how great that feels to work collaboratively. It's a really nice feeling. And also, you get more done, it's more effective. So I think that's been a big surprise for me, both meeting Georgia and us working collaboratively, and how powerful that is to have that, but then that broader sense of collaboration, and just like, we want to have fun when we work, don't we? And I think like working collaboratively is both fun and really, really impactful. So that's maybe been my positive surprise.
I think to create big change, you have to bring quite a lot of people together on that journey.
Yeah, and like Earthfest in itself, there's so many organisations that have come together over these 3 days. It's such a positive vibe. So yeah.
Have you come across anyone over the last few days where you think, we could do some work together?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I had some good chats. So yeah,
very nice.
Really good.
And tell us, what is your vision for the future of mobility in this city?
So I mean, I guess for London, but maybe just kind of more widely for the UK, I feel like people should have more choice of the kind of mode of mobility they want to use. There should be more freedom. We shouldn't be stuck in like, here's your car, this is your vehicle, you either do this or that. There should be way more freedom and way more creativity in a way. And also, like, my vision is just that communication on the roads, like, if you cycle and you see another cyclist and you kind of smile, and there's that, there's that vibe. And I feel like if we have more interesting, different vehicles coming in, it could be quite an exciting place. And I feel it's really key that everybody respects each other and treats each other nicely. So I guess my vision is kind of, just that kind of creativity and harmony on the roads.
I would love that too. And the first one, what can the people here in this audience do to help realise that vision?
Yeah, I think, it's a good question. I think that's a massive part of Earthfest, isn't it? Positive climate action, sorry. I think stepping outside of your comfort zone and trying something new, the problem often is we're stuck in habits, and it's really easy to just stick with the same habit. But I think in terms of transport, trying something new, stepping outside of your comfort zone, giving something a go is is definitely like a really positive step that you can take.
So trying one of your bikes.
Come down and try one of our bikes, exactly. Yeah. We're here until 5 o'clock today, and we're here all day tomorrow. Come along and try out an e-bike. We'd love to see you.
Is there anything that the audience need to do in order to try? Do they need to book online? Or
come down. You can come down to our stall in the expo, and we're asking everyone to do a little survey, because this is a behaviour change campaign. So we're trying to gauge everybody's feelings towards e-bikes pre-test ride, and then we follow up with a little survey post-test ride. So we're really kind of gauging the impact the experience. So yeah, just come along and come and find us, and or just come out onto the test track, and we can do it there. And yeah.
Perfect. And to the guy who's tried the e-bike earlier on the test track, now that you've tried it, would you get on an e-bike again? Definitely, that is.
Yeah. And you tried an e-trike, actually, which I haven't even talked about e-trikes yet. But again, looking at a variation of different electric bikes, the e-trikes have 3 wheels. And
you're like
you're
lying
sat
down
like
right?
this, so they're like really comfortable, but they're really powerful as well, aren't they? So yeah, exploration and fun.
I'm going to try one of those myself.
Excellent.
Where can people go to get in touch with you? Is there a website where people can go?
Yeah. So if you go to loudmobility.co.uk, all the information on our services and how we work. We're also based in Camden. We have the Loud Mobility Clubhouse, which is a venue. We're based in an old Victorian primary school that has been converted. So we're in a classroom there, and we have a really nice accessible space. So we also, we can work with, we can host events and engagement events. So yeah, come and see us. Come and say hello.
Perfect. So loudmobility.co.uk.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Adrian. Thank you.